All right, recording's on. Thanks everyone for coming. I was a little bit hoping that Dom and Eric would make it today. Oh, and Kyle too. Yeah, here's Kyle. Hey, Kyle. Um, no worries. Uh, like I was saying, I was a little bit hoping Dom and Eric would make it today. There's one item I wanted to add to the agenda, which was I actually got a ping offline from Ramp, from Giovanni at Ramp, I should say, and I asked him. I think I'll be asking a few others who have shown interest in this work because they want to use it to contribute to a use cases document, um, where what I want to gather is like a document where we have statements from a number of companies that are interested saying, here's what it would mean to us if multicast was in the browser. I want to just start collecting those, um, so that we can show people at, like, TPAC or something, IETF, whoever. Um, so that's the main ask I wanted to add. Uh, I'll just add that to the agenda. All right. But since they're not here, I guess we might skip that part. I wanted it in there, but maybe I'll just do it next time that they do show up, or send them offline messages. Um, so I guess the bulk of what else was on the agenda was just kind of going over where we got to on sort of getting started with uh, you know the, the specification and a demo that that we'd like to run. Um, I'm really happy with the progress. Thanks to everyone who worked on it. That was it's refreshing to see, a bunch of check-ins happening, and it's been a lot of work, um, that's happened, I think. So that's great. Um, and I guess, what do we do? I put all the items in there that I wanted to say happened. So yeah, it's been productive. Thanks to Max, Leo, and Kyle. Um, we've got a bunch of check-ins happening. We made a fork. We're, adding stuff in there. Max especially has been really helping to tighten up the initial draft specification doc for the quick extension. Um, I'm a little worried the quick working group is going to think it's too complicated, um, and they're not going to want it. I think I'm intending to propose it as experimental, um, which I think is okay. Uh, uh, um, and anything else we should really get into? I'd almost like to just sort of open it up as a rest of the working session, unless we have questions, um, like things that we would next address in the next working session we have. Um, things like uh, clarifying what the demo will look like. Um, I think there's a work item for putting together the like a web transport based uh, web app that can accept something that comes from the push API we've outlined, right? Um, and we can work toward. I think getting the push API accepting some data first is like the first step of that, but we can just. Uh, but I think it's something that can proceed in parallel as soon as there's something that can forward through. Like, it doesn't have to have the multicast transport part working in order to have uh, a useful demo app that runs in a browser that can receive pushed data from, um, from the server initiated unidirectional data the way we're trying to send. So I guess yeah, Kyle, Max, do you guys have any doubts about what you should be working on next for this, or where you should be looking?
Kyle, do you want to finish feeding or you can go ahead?
Yeah, I'll finish eating and then you
Okay,
can go.
I go first. Okay.
That's what I get for scheduling it East Coast
yeah.
lunchtime, I guess.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure what to specifically work on. I mean, the frames are in now, I guess. So let me rephrase. What are you gonna work on next?
I want to finish the frames. There's like still
Okay.
4 or 5 of them missing. I think I did all the control frames,
Right.
unless we count. I'm not really sure what distinguishes a control frame from a not control frame.
Yeah.
The stream boundary might be a control frame. I'm not sure. I think it's about whether it contributes to the flow control because it's not part of a stream or something. And so for that, like, I'm not sure whether integrity frames, for example, should be counted as control frames or not because they're going to be fairly volumetric, right? So I think there's some open questions on details about that, but and also like the stream boundary frame that maybe should be control. I thought maybe it was associated with the stream sufficiently that it shouldn't, but anyway. So there's still some more frames to add. So I was going to finish doing that. I took a quick little break to take a look at the push command because Leo had some questions and was that a reasonable kind of here's something that kind of works or kind of does something. I wanted to get that integrated, but I got to get back to the frames and finish those up, I think. But then after that, we got to start like doing logic with the frames or something.
Right.
And we also have to get inbound push data.
Right.
So those are kind of the two keys for getting this part working. But then the other piece is going to be dependent on the inbound push data, and that would be doing something in a web transport web app, which would be able to take the multicast as well. Yeah. I think those are the 3 big pieces of this.
Do you know how concurrency works in Quiche by chance?
I mean,
Because otherwise, I might look into that and see how we can actually like open the receive sockets for the multicast and what like concurrency
so
model would be the best fit for that.
yeah, it's the quick ePull server stuff. So that's basically a sort of event driver. Um, if you look at the stuff I did put in for the push channel things, that like you have to stick an FD into the pull handler so that when the FD becomes like readable or writable, then you get a signal. So that part uh, is works through there, and then there's sort of a interfacing layer about how you set a timeout or something, and that would drive other events to fire that come from the same kind of context. So yeah, I can point you to that bit. You wanted that for like how it gets started, or how it does the initial negotiations, or
Well, I mean, there's no negotiation, right, for multicast specifically. The server
after
gets
the
it and then you can
transport?
just,
Yeah.
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 No, but I thought
Well,
like on the client, how does the client, if the client gets the join stream frame, how does the client actually join that stream, right?
yes, right.
Where does the socket go? So on.
Yeah, so that should plug into the same system. I think we're gonna have to like in response to the join frame, we'll have to open or receive a socket that's appropriate, send give it the sock opt call that does the join, and stick the read on the into the ePull server for the client, I think. Actually, I didn't look at that on the client side.
Yeah,
Um, that is a good question, especially because like as it stands now, we don't know if it's the ePull or not, right?
probably isn't, considering it's running on Mac. So
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Um, okay, so we should decide for the client side whether we're going to do the yeah, we probably have to do the simple server if we want, or the simple. Okay, so I don't know how it works on the client. You're right. Okay.
well,
Kyle?
okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
No, last thing. Okay, so the client, but shouldn't it be inside the quiche implementation? Like, shouldn't the quiche implementation open the sockets?
So it sort of takes it outside of the it's like not part of the core, I think, where the sockets are maintained. So there's like it's like one of the test tools is sort of how it's structured, right? So the
Okay.
client itself is a test tool.
Mhm.
Once it's inside Chromium, then it'll be something totally different again, right? So the idea
Okay.
is that it's going to be like most of the quick core library stuff is about, once you've got a packet, then how do you interpret it and all that kind of thing, right?
Okay.
But then they do include some drivers, and there's a few different drivers, right? There's the simple server and the ePulse server that are both sort of treated similarly, but have a different way that they get kicked off and started depending on which executable you built or you're running, right? So having an extra socket for the client, like I don't know how they do that for because they have to do that for like connection migration already, right? But
Presumably.
it's sort of only a temporary thing for connection migration, whereas this will be more permanent. Um, I don't know. I hope we don't have to make a K event symbol, a K event server or something, so we can run it on
Yeah.
Mac. But maybe we should. I don't know.
Okay.
Or okay, so you want to take a look into that?
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna
Okay.
take a look at it.
And kind of post links to where you think is the right thing. I can or make you know a prototype. I think you can go ahead and put something in that responds to the join. We do
Mm-hmm.
have a join frame there, and you can make it send that as the sort of initial thing, you
Mm-hmm.
know, as a sort of temp hack kind of a deal. Um, but yeah, I think you could start experimenting with that and just see what works. That'd be
Okay.
great. Cool. Okay, that's a good next step. Right now, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even started the stuff that we talked about on Friday,
Oh, okay.
so that's what I'm working on.
Okay. Okay.
And hopefully I will be able to make significant progress on that by, I don't know whether we're meeting on Friday because of the the wellness day or not, but if we do, then
Uh,
hopefully I'll make good progress before then.
okay. Um, yeah. So you
I
saw
can I
the
can guarantee you I'm not going to be done though with
sure,
what I
that
have.
makes sense.
So
But you did see you saw the PR where I integrated Leo's stuff so that the protobuf messages for the push data
I
gets
didn't, but I
okay.
didn't, but that's good to know. So I don't have to start with his branch.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I took his branch and put it in so that it links against the qpush driver and also against the it still doesn't do anything, but it
Mhm.
it has the capability to like make those protobuf objects.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the so you're going to look into making it a
Trying to
Unix socket instead of a pipe.
gRPCize it, or if that
Yeah.
doesn't look viable, then try and get it to use a Unix domain socket or something like that. I mean, just
Yep.
come up with a solution and get the messages being transported into the quick server.
Great. Okay.
Um,
I think that does sound better than the pipes. I don't know why I did pipes instead of the Unix socket, but
well,
okay.
no, I mean, you know, a pipe is a natural thing to use if for blocking stuff, but for non-blocking things, it just like there are so many weird corner cases I've found with pipes that it's
Yeah. Okay.
you'll end up with perverse, like, you know, corner case behavior, and that's not something you want in a server.
Yeah. Um, I'm not sure if the stream data should be treated separately from the from all the command stuff. Um, like it might be fine to just sort of have a way to open a streaming context and then send it things. Um,
Mhm.
that's
Um,
kind of where I what I was thinking of when I started with pipes, like a separate pipe per stream so that it gets demuxed that way. But you can do that with
well,
separates.
yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out gRPC, right? It may be that there is a natural way to do this with that doesn't involve protobufs. It's unclear to me, right? Because gRPC and protobufs are, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
basically, you know, two halves of the same thing. So so if it turns out that there isn't, or if there isn't an accepted pattern for this kind of thing, or if the pattern is, hey, you should open up a socket and stream the data over, then we'll, you know, then we'll do that instead.
Okay.
Sure, I can, you know, I can refer to some old FTP RFCs for you know, inspiration.
Let's not. FTP is really special. Okay. Um, yeah, I guess. So it looks like my appeal for use cases. I don't have my audience here yet. If I'll probably send an email then to people like Eric and Dom, um, and see if I can get them to contribute just a few paragraphs about like why it would be helpful for them. And if you think of anybody else, I sent something to Ramp already. Uh, I probably should write one for Akamai. Um, and then anybody else you know of that could meaningfully contribute to that, maybe ping them, send them to me, whatever. Send them. We can start collecting those over email.
Did you contact Richard or Sam
Oh, I did. Yeah, yeah.
on that?
And Lucas. So Sam actually made some good comments also on the latest spec. The answer I got was they probably won't be authors on this one. They're not expecting to be authors. We that's a bit of an independent question of whether we end up collaborating. But yeah, they're aware of it, and Sam has been commenting on the multicast on this multicast extension. Um, so uh, I hope continue to do that. He had some good comments too. Um, uh, Lucas, I still want to hear from. He did say he wanted to be involved, but I haven't seen any evidence that he's managed to make the time to read through the document yet, in its more current form. So I did say that if I hadn't heard back today, I'd probably go ahead and post it. So I think I will, towards the end of the day, submit this to the IETF data tracker. So we'll have a -00 version of it that we can start kicking around. But I think there's still a ways to go before it's ready for to uh, so I guess maybe what I should say is towards the end of this month, I'd like to be in a place to get a few other people from the quick working group to take a look. I think we're the way we're fleshing it out, it's going pretty well. I think we've made a lot of improvements and there's decent stuff there. They're gonna hate how complicated it is, I'm pretty sure. It's, it's like 10 new frames is like half of what's already in Quick, just by frame count. And I think we're adding another one too, right? 11 new frames. They had 19, I think, for the initial draft, and then there's like 2 more going in for multipath, and there's 1 more that went in for the datagrams. So this is a pretty heavy extension, in terms of just how much it adds to the functionality and things that you have to parse. That's part of why I want to make it experimental. I think it'll take a few rounds of, it'll probably take some operational experience before we can say with confidence that it's good the way it is. And I guess that's the other thing. I'm still working on trying to get a few events done with Multicast. There's a lot of details to work out, and people figuring out which kind of event and which kind of network are going to be, what timeline exactly. But we're trying to pin down a few actual events or 2 to start with for multicast delivery. If we're in the right kind of place for it, then I would love to suggest like using our, even existing multicast apps. If we put them into a quick datagram, then it can look just like, the receive path can look pretty much the same. So if we manage to do that, then we can have the integrity and the encryption. And this seems like it would be I think the default is probably just to add encryption the way Ambi does it, or not encryption, just to add the integrity the way Ambi does it, and maybe to skimp on that. For the first couple of events, I'm not really sure. I would strongly discourage that because I don't want traffic injected really. But in general, I think this will be better received if we can make the case that this is meaningfully adding encryption to data that we'd otherwise be sending without encryption. And that's part of why it's worthwhile, and part of the sort of browser insistence that drives this kind of work, I think, is like we do want to fit that model and be like properly encrypted. I mean, multicast as we've got as our security considerations draft, pointed out, does come with some special issues. There's a sort of risk of key exposure that scales with the the breadth of your your client receive audience that gets the same key. So while it's important to acknowledge that, it's also the case that the key does not necessarily get exposed. So having it encrypted, yeah, that feedback from like a year ago now on the quick or on the Chrome net dev list was well founded, I think. So, all right. Anything else we should go over then today? Heard from Sam. Still waiting to hear from Lucas, but I think I'm going to go ahead and post something anyway. And I'll be asking for use case doc submissions. And yeah, if you know anybody else, ask for those. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I think we will wrap up early. Thanks everyone for coming. And I'll see you next time. Thanks very much
Fine.
Thank you.
for the notes.
My pleasure.
All right. And yeah, bye.